Emma Sullivan was 8 years old when she was taken, playing in her yard, drawing pictures of sunsets. One moment she was there, the next, gone. Her brother Richard searched for her for 30 years. Her parents died without answers. The case went cold. The FBI closed the file. Everyone assumed she was dead. Everyone except Richard. Because Emma had a habit, a small, strange habit that only her family knew about. She signed her artwork on the back. Never the front. Always the back. With her initials and the date. Yes, and 30 years later, when Richard walked into an auction house and saw a painting that looked like Emma's style, when he turned it over and saw ES 1994. Age 8. I will come home, he knew. His sister had survived. She'd painted this as a child. Left a breadcrumb. And somehow, impossibly, it had ended up in the hands of a woman named Claire Bennett, whose mother had died 6 months ago. A mother who'd never told her daughter the truth. That she wasn't Claire's biological mother. That she'd once been a little girl named Emma Sullivan. That she'd been kidnapped, raised by someone else, and spent her entire life trying to find her way home. Claire Bennett stood in the back corner of Henderson's fine art auction house, her heart pounding with anxiety she tried to hide. The painting sat on the display easel, lot number 47. An amateur watercolor of a sunset. Orange bleeding into purple. Clouds that looked more like wishes than weather. It was the only thing her mother had left behind. No savings. No insurance. No explanation for the cancer that took her 6 months ago. Just this painting, found wrapped in newspaper in the attic with a note. If you ever need money, sell this. But look at the back first. Claire had looked at the back. Found a child's signature. ES 1994. Age 8. I will come home. She'd assumed it was something her mother had bought at a yard sale. Some random child's art project. Worth maybe $50. But $50 would help. Rent was due. The eviction notice was already on her door. Claire had $12 in her bank account and a waitressing job that barely covered food. The auctioneer's voice cut through her thoughts. Lot 47. Unsigned watercolor. Circa 1990s. Do I hear an opening bid of $50? Silence. Claire's chest tightened. Even $50 was too much to hope for. 25. The auctioneer tried. More silence. People whispered. Looked away. Moved on to the next lot. Claire felt tears building. This was it. The last thing she had. And no one wanted it. We'll withdraw this lot unless. $1 million. The room froze. Every head turned. Claire's vision blurred with shock. A man stood in the back of the room. 50-something. Expensive suit. Silver hair. His face was pale, his hand trembling as he pointed at the painting. I'm sorry, the auctioneer stammered. Did you say? $1 million, the man repeated, his voice cracking. I need to see that painting. Now. If you believe in miracles, in families torn apart and brought back together, and in the breadcrumbs we leave behind hoping someone will find us, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Echoes of Courage, and share this story. Because sometimes what looks worthless to the world is priceless to the one person who's been searching for it. The auctioneer looked at Claire, confused. Claire nodded, numb. Within minutes, paperwork was signed. The painting was handed to the man. And Claire watched as he turned it over with shaking hands. He stared at the back for what felt like an eternity. Then he looked up at Claire, tears streaming down his face. Where did you get this? It was my mother's, Claire stammered. She died 6 months ago. It was in her attic. The man's face crumpled. What was your mother's name? Sarah. Sarah Bennett. The man closed his eyes. And before that, did she ever mention another name? Claire shook her head, frightened now. No. Why? What's going on? The man extended his hand, tears falling freely. My name is Richard Sullivan. And I think, his voice broke, I think your mother was my sister. 30 years earlier. Greenwich, Connecticut. June 14, 1994. Emma Sullivan sat in her front yard, watercolor set spread on the grass, painting her favorite subject, sunsets. She was 8 years old, obsessed with art. Her brother Richard, 12, was inside doing homework. Their mother was making dinner. Their father was still at work. It was an ordinary Tuesday. Safe neighborhood. Broad daylight. Parents just inside. No one saw the van pull up. No one saw the woman get out, mid-40s, kind face, soft voice. No one heard her ask Emma if she wanted to see some puppies in her van. By the time Richard came outside to call Emma for dinner, she was gone. The painting sat on the grass. Watercolors still wet. Brushes scattered. As if Emma had simply vanished mid-stroke. The police came. FBI. Search parties. News coverage. Amber alerts. But Emma Sullivan had disappeared without a trace. The only clue was the painting she'd been working on, a sunset she'd never finished. Richard's parents never recovered. His father, Thomas Sullivan, died of a heart attack 5 years later. His mother, Margaret, withdrew into silence, spending her remaining years staring at Emma's empty bedroom. She died 10 years after that, still waiting for her daughter to come home. But Richard survived by refusing to give up. He kept Emma's room exactly as she'd left it. Kept every drawing, every painting, every scribbled signature on the back of her artwork. E.S., with the date. Always on the back. Emma said it was so people would have to flip the painting over to know who made it. A game. A secret signature. Richard built a tech company. Made millions. Then billions. Used every resource to search for his sister. Hired private investigators. Funded cold case units. Commissioned age progression photos showing what Emma might look like at 18, 25, 30. But after 30 years, even Richard had begun to accept the inevitable. Emma was probably dead. Probably killed soon after she was taken. The signature on her paintings was just a memory. A ghost. Until today. Present day. Henderson's auction house. I don't understand, Claire said, her voice shaking. My mother, Sarah Bennett, she raised me. She's my mother. She's not. When was she born? Richard asked gently. What year? 1986. Richard pulled out his phone. Showed Claire a photo. A family portrait from 1993. A man, a woman, a 12-year-old boy, and an 8-year-old girl with dark hair and bright eyes. This is my family, Richard said. That's Emma. My sister. Born in 1986. Claire stared at the photo. At the little girl who looked exactly like her childhood photos. At the date. At the impossibility of what Richard was suggesting. You're saying my mother was kidnapped? That she, Claire's voice broke. That she wasn't who she said she was? I'm saying, Richard said carefully, that someone took my sister 30 years ago. And this painting, this signature, is something only Emma would know to do. And somehow, it ended up in your mother's attic. Claire's mind reeled. But my mother, she had stories. About her childhood. About her parents. About. Were there photos? Richard asked. Family albums? Relatives you met? Claire opened her mouth. Closed it. Because the truth was, no. No photos. No relatives. Her mother always said she was an only child. Her parents died when she was young. Raised by an elderly aunt who also passed away. No one to visit. No one to call. Just Sarah and Claire. Always just the two of them. She told me she couldn't have children, Claire whispered. That she adopted me when I was a baby. That my birth mother didn't want me. That she, Claire's voice cracked. That she saved me. Richard's face softened with understanding. She probably believed she was saving you. The woman who took Emma, whoever she was, probably convinced herself she was rescuing a child. That Emma was better off with her. But why? Claire sobbed. Why would someone do that? I don't know, Richard said. But I'd like to find out. If you'll let me. Before we continue, pause and comment below. What would you do if you discovered everything you knew about your family was a lie? Share your thoughts. We're listening. Claire agreed to a DNA test. 3 days later, the results came back. Richard Sullivan and Claire Bennett shared 25% DNA. Uncle and niece. Which meant Sarah Bennett, Claire's mother, was Emma Sullivan, Richard's kidnapped sister. The FBI reopened the case, examined Sarah Bennett's life, and slowly, the story emerged. The woman who took Emma was named Margaret Holloway, 46 years old in 1994. Unable to have children. Husband had just left her. She'd seen Emma painting in her yard and something snapped. She convinced herself Emma needed her. That Emma was meant to be hers. Margaret took Emma to Oregon. Changed her name to Sarah. Homeschooled her. Kept her isolated. Told her that her real family didn't want her. That Margaret had saved her from a terrible life. And Emma, 8 years old, terrified, confused, eventually believed it. The memories of her real family faded. Became dreams. Became stories she wasn't sure were real. But some part of her remembered. Some part of her never stopped trying to leave breadcrumbs. The paintings. Always the paintings. Always signed on the back. E.S. The initials she couldn't explain but couldn't abandon. And that one painting, the one she'd made just after being taken, with a message she'd hidden where Margaret wouldn't see it. I will come home. Margaret died when Emma, now Sarah, was 19. And Sarah, with no identification, no birth certificate, no proof of existence, created a new life. Got a job. Had a daughter, Claire, though she'd always believed she'd adopted her. Sarah never knew she'd been kidnapped. Never knew her real name. Never knew a brother had spent 30 years searching for her. But she'd kept that one painting. The one from 1994. The one with her real initials. The breadcrumb she'd left behind as a child, hoping someone would find it. And 30 years later, someone had. Richard stood in Claire's tiny apartment, looking at the few photos Sarah had kept. One showed Sarah, Emma, at 38, just before the cancer diagnosis. She looked so much like their mother. The same eyes. The same smile. She had a good life? Richard asked quietly. Claire nodded, wiping tears. She was a wonderful mother. She worked 2 jobs to support me. She never complained. Claire's voice broke. She loved me so much. Even if she wasn't. She was your mother, Richard said firmly. DNA doesn't change that. She raised you. Loved you. Kept you safe. That's what makes someone a mother. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is for you. Claire opened it. Inside was a check. For $1 million. I can't, Claire started. It's not charity, Richard interrupted. It's family. You're my niece. Emma's daughter. Which makes you the only family I have left. He smiled through tears. Besides, I think Emma would have wanted you to have it. She was always the generous one. Over the following months, Richard and Claire built something neither expected. A relationship. A family. Richard showed Claire photos of Emma as a child. Videos of Christmases and birthdays. Stories of a little girl who loved painting sunsets and signed her name on the back of everything. Claire showed Richard the woman Emma had become. Letters Sarah had written to Claire. Recipes she'd perfected. The small, quiet life she'd built from nothing. And together, they mourned. Mourned the 30 years stolen. Mourned the parents who died without answers. mourned the sister who never knew she had a brother searching for her. But they also celebrated. Because against impossible odds, a child's signature on a painting had brought a family back together. A breadcrumb left 3 decades ago had finally led someone home. Richard donated $10 million to organizations fighting child trafficking and kidnapping. Established the Emma Sullivan Foundation. Funded technologies to help find missing children. And in Emma's childhood bedroom, the room Richard had kept untouched for 30 years, he hung the painting. The sunset. The breadcrumb. The proof that his sister had survived. On the back, in a child's handwriting, ES 1994. Age 8. I will come home. She never made it home. But her daughter did. And sometimes, that's enough. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to Echoes of Courage, and share it with someone who needs to believe that lost things can still be found. Leave a comment. Have you ever found something that changed everything you thought you knew? Your story matters. Thank you for watching. Remember, we all leave breadcrumbs. Sometimes it just takes 30 years for someone to find them.